everybody. Welcome to Truth Teller Tales. I'm Ellen, and I am dedicated to interviewing those folks who were truth seekers and then became truth tellers and all have this unwavering faith. And it's the most incredible time to be alive. And I know these folks are going to be studied for generations. Today, I have someone who I can honestly say I have watched and listened to for years. Um, He's so kind. He comes across that way, very kind, and he has lots of wise and reassuring things to say. And he's been a part of who I listen to still years later. And this is just the coolest thing ever to have Captain Kyle on. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Oh, I can't hear you. Can you try talking again?
I said thank you so much for that
Oh,
introduction. It was very honored.
you're welcome. And I have to show everybody I drink out of my Captain Kyle mug here too.
And I only did any of that stuff. I don't even really do new stuff, and you could know that. But I only
Yeah.
did that because so many people asked that they wanted something to show their participation. It cost me
Yeah.
more money to do it all than it did I ever made on it, plus the tax implications to it all. And everything it's all a freaking nightmare. But I really never made any money on anything when I showed Kelly the first time, because she was cautious about it, because we never wanted to make any money doing this. It was always out of my dime. I did everything right. And when she found out what I was charging versus what I got for it, plus the shipping and everything else, she was like, "Oh my God, you're losing money." I know.
Well,
But
I'm
that got
grateful
her
to have
to
it.
understand. She understood it then, that it wasn't. I
Yeah.
wasn't trying to make anything, and that it was
Yeah.
only for people to say that they have this connection, and it's a part of
Yeah.
what they're participating in from their lives, and that's all it was about, really.
That's how I feel. That's exactly it. That's why I wanted to show it to you when first was on here. So I'm just thrilled. This is thrilling and very cool for me. Um, so I know most people know you, but especially who will be watching this, but just tell people kind of where you are today, and then I wanna go back to your childhood and just hear about you. But what would you say today, um, what your main goal is right now?
Trying to remember as much as possible. That's really my main goal, because we
Mhm.
already know everything. We just don't know how to recall it, or to find those hidden truths that are within every one of us. And so that's my
Yes.
ultimate journey that I'm on. And to do that, I have to stay out of the noise as much as possible.
Yeah. Yes, you do, but still have to keep up, with everything going on. It's that balance, it's that tightrope that you have to walk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Uh, well, you're doing such a wonderful job, and I'm saying this because I mean it. People often I listen to them, I listened to them for years, will come into your podcasts and things and just be, "Wait a minute, what if this happens that? When is that? When's this?" And you're just so calm and wonderful to them, and you're like, "Listen." I mean, because you understand the bigger picture, and it's just so reassuring for people. And so I just also want to just say thank you to you from all of us that have enjoyed you and listened to you, and with Kelly, who is just a bright light as well. So I just want to say that. And now I really want to do the fun thing is I just want to go back to your life, Captain Kyle, and just tell us about where you were born and your childhood and your life kind of growing up.
Well, all of that was pretty rough, actually. I don't talk about it too much. I was born just outside of Dallas, in the mid 60s. And, it was a wild time then. Things were completely different for, Gen X people. And
Mhm.
we moved from there. I was only a couple years old. We moved to Houston. But later on in my life, I found out because I've been around a lot of very, um, I'm talking about midlife, around people that were very spiritual, prophets, people like that, that I spend a lot of time with. My father in law is an actual prophet. And I mean, I'm talking a read your mail prophet, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that mantle that sat on him, I sat under him for years as well. And come to find out that the enemy had been trying to sift me my entire life. And even before I was born, um, my dad, he was really bad alcohol. My real father, he was a really bad alcoholic, and used to beat my wife, my mom, and stuff. And in doing so, she had almost had a miscarriage with me, and before I was even born. And I didn't know that until after someone told me that he tried to take me from my mother's womb and tried to kill me there. And I went to ask my mom about it, and she told me then, but I didn't know about it beforehand. And it's like, so the enemy's been trying to take me my entire life, and I have been through situations that I should be dead, but I'm not. I was even electrocuted. Um, when I first met my wife in my early 20s, um, I got electrocuted, and it was 460 DC, and it should have killed me right on the spot. And it didn't, but the deal is it went in my left hand, went up into my right brain, and back out my left foot. Didn't cross through my heart. But I had all kinds of issues because of it. I couldn't talk. Um, I could barely walk. My entire left side was completely didn't work, and my right side did somewhat, but it was impaired. And come to find out that it had melted the nerves between my brain stem and spinal cord going to my left side,
Oh,
and then it had damaged my right brain, in my speech center, to where I was not able to speak. And so I had to learn how to talk all over again. I had to learn how to walk all over again. I had to learn pretty much everything. And I was told basically it was inoperable because of where it was at. And that most
so
likely, yeah, most
this was
likely,
in your 20s?
yeah, I was in my mid 20s when this happened. And I was really not supposed to be able to walk or really be able to talk again. I spent a year and a half in speech therapy to learn how to speak again because I stuttered so bad you couldn't understand me. And it was weird because it's like you know how to talk because you've been talking for 20 something years, but
Right.
it don't come out anymore. And it was like so frustrating. Even when I was in the hospital, my wife would come see me, and this is before we were married, and she'd come see me, and I would sit there, and um, I would feel retarded because if you looked at me, you couldn't tell anything was wrong with me. And I was in a
Mhm.
wheelchair, but you couldn't tell anything was wrong with me unless I opened my mouth or I tried to get up. And I had been before that. I mean, I was an athlete my whole life, played every sport. I mean, from football, baseball, um, hockey, you name it, I played it. And I mean, the even swim team. I mean, there was nothing I didn't do and did it on a really high level. I mean, coming out of high school, I had offers to go straight into pro ball,
Oh,
and to
I
play.
wanna hear about that. So I wanna hear about that, and then I wanna get back to the electrocution, but I wanna hear, so when you were a kid, would you say, so did you, were you always the athlete? Were you
Oh,
also the troublemaker? Did you just try to skate through school? I mean, what were you back
so
then?
school. The only reason I went to school was so that basically I could play sports. I hated school. Um, I didn't have. I. It was. It was not hard. I just didn't want to put forth any effort towards it. I would learn things really quickly. And
Mhm.
because I didn't want to do homework, and that would cause problems. I didn't want to be there. I'd listen to something one time and I would get it. And then I didn't want to do the stuff because it was like, it was such a pain. So, I mean, the only reason I went to school basically was to to continue with playing in sports and stuff because that's what I really wanted to do. And I had offers coming out of high school playing baseball, um, to go to the Astros, straight to their camp, straight out of high school, and also to Cincinnati Reds. And
Wow.
there was other players that before me and after me in the school that I went to. Actually, that had happened to them, and a really good friend of mine that was like 2 years ahead of me actually did the same thing. Went straight to Pittsburgh, and basically from there went on, played for Cincinnati and played for Seattle, and played for Seattle most of his life. From there, his name was Jay Buhner, and he played right field for Seattle for until he retired. And so I played with these guys. This is the kind of guys I hung out with. And I was at that same level. And
Wow. And so, Captain Kyle, do you think because, it's interesting, some of the other men that I've talked to who've become leaders like you do have that athletic background, especially in team sports. And, if what you're saying, obviously things were a little unstable at your home, did that give you a sense of stability? Were there male people that could give you some leadership there at that period too?
not too much. I mean, the so my mom and dad, my real mom and dad, and they got divorced. I was around 10, I think I was around fourth, fifth grade, something like that. In between my fourth and fifth grade year. And so then my mom, she got remarried, and um, we had moved from Houston. I lived in the inner city, and it was really bad where I lived when I was a kid. And so from there, we moved out into the country areas, out in the suburbs, but really it was more country than it was, suburbs, because it was halfway between Houston and Galveston, close to Clear Lake. And there was, 6,000 people in the entire town. I mean, it was not that big compared to being in the Houston Metroplex, right? And so
Mhm.
everybody had, horses and cows, and there was lots of stuff. We used to walk out my back door, climb over the fence, go across the pasture, and then we would be like pasture after pasture after pasture for miles before you get to the next town. And we go out there with shotguns when we were in junior high school, and we would leave on a Friday night, come back Sunday, because that was what we did. And our parents, because we grew up, well, my stepfather, he's really who I consider to be my dad. And
Mhm.
um, he put up with my crazy stuff. And God bless him, because I was an ass. I really was. I was angry at the world. My dad used to beat me when I was a kid, and I was mean as hell. Really, I was. And whenever he came into the picture, he was such a good guy, great heart, and everything. And I abused him in just being the asshole that I was, right? And it was a difficult time for growing up because I was so angry at everything. And so my outlet was being crazy, doing crazy stuff, and then sports where I was actually the cat's meow. And in doing so, it was like I knew I was a peacock and I was okay. And that was where I shined. And that was
Mhm.
kind of where my place of, feeling like I fit at the time. And
Mhm.
I'm really glad that things happened in my life that changed that direction, because if not, and I would have went down that, and I chose not to go into the pro sport, into college. And in my first year, basically, I ended up getting hurt severely and run into first base of all things, tore my quadricep, and
Oh
it took me
god.
out for the entire fall season. In doing so, I got mixed up with some wrong people doing some wrong things, and I ended up never going back. Um, and After my first year. And so I never really got to pursue that down that pathway. And I'm And I'm so fortunate that I did, because it's made me the man that I am today. I would have never met my wife. I would have never had my kids. And I wouldn't
Yeah.
be where I am today because of that different path that I was on,
Mhm.
would have led me to that path of uh, self, because
Right,
that's what it was all about. And then, all the focus was on me, about look at me, look what I can accomplish, look what I do, look at the money I made, look at all these things.
right.
And it would have, I would never have become the man that I am today. So I wouldn't go back and change it all. I mean, I miss
Mhm.
it terribly. For years, I couldn't even watch a baseball game. For, I mean, like 10 or 15 years, I didn't have anything to do with it. I was so pissed off because
Yeah.
I felt like I went and shortchanged my life, right? And this is when I was captaining, and I was captaining ships. And I mean, I found other avenues of really becoming something that is a better man and to be an example. But I was really never satisfied with pretty much anything. And it was difficult. And as I grew older and I matured, those things didn't matter as much. And
Mhm.
I found the one thing that changed everything, and I found God. And I've been looking for God my whole life. And everywhere I'd ever went, even from a kid, from Baptist churches, Catholic, I mean, I was raised as a Catholic as a kid. And I
Mhm.
mean, I have a Catholic, name and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, you are a bunch of flakes. I mean, it's a fraud. And I saw those things as a kid. Not that I just didn't like it, but it was that it was
Right.
a fraud. I didn't want nothing to do with it. So I would go
Yep.
somewhere else, to a Baptist church. I'm talking about, you know, junior high school. And I would go to like the vacation Bible school and stuff like that, in like Baptist
Mhm.
schools. It was like, you guys are the same thing, but it's just something different. And it was like so
Yeah.
frustrating that all these places of worship was basically people playing church, and there was no God there. And so I got
Yeah.
really frustrated with it. And
Right.
it was really hard. And like I said, and then I met my wife, and meeting her, and then meeting her father, which
Mhm.
hated my guts to begin with. Because, like I said, I was an ass when I first met her. I mean, really, I was.
Wow.
I was so self-serving, and I did. It was like she helped change me in so many ways. But the real thing is that not only her, but when I came in contact with actually the Spirit of God, and that
Yeah.
changed me. And I've been, searching for that experience of something being real for my whole
Mhm.
life. And then I obtained it, and it was like, oh, this is this is the bomb. And the thing with that is that I didn't have, even in that, I never had the same beliefs as everybody else did, because I was actually having the one-on-one true experience with God. And my wife
Yeah.
she left and she went to Bible college, and she got her degree, and she's an ordained minister. And um I wanted to go, and I wanted, like this, after my experiences and stuff, I took a sabbatical from captaining for a short period of time. And I went to Bible college too, there with her at the same time. And she graduated, and I was got one more year to graduate. And at the time, we were actually going around. We were youth pastors at the church that we were at there, at the where the college was at. And we were getting called out to these big churches and stuff like that, for me to basically minister on different times all over the place. And I had a very prophetic gift at the time as well, because, like I said, I spent a lot of time speaking directly with God in the Spirit. and
Mhm.
and I got that from her father. And that connection and being underneath him once God actually had told him, yes, this is me. I'm putting it together. And I brought them together. And as soon as he told him that, he was like, okay, I'm all on board. Because before that, he was like, I don't want this for my daughter. Because, like I said, I was
Right.
completely the opposite of everything he had envisioned for his daughter. Right. And so, but when God intervened to him, it was like, oh, I'm on board now. And ever since then, it was great. And, but
So I have questions. So I want to get the time frame too, and I have questions with what you just said too. So when the baseball didn't work out and you were in a bad place, was the sequence of events then you met your wife, and so you were still kind of in. So she must have seen something within you, obviously.
Well, it was after that period because I didn't meet my wife until my mid 20s and stuff. And
Okay.
through 19 through about 26 or so, um,
Hmm.
I was a pretty wild child. I mean, real wild. It's not even close. And when I was, like I said, I was very self serving. It was all about me and didn't care about anything else in the world. And I'd also had this, really great fear of dying. And in doing so, basically, so because I always had this spiritual thing that I was lacking. And so I had this fear of death. And I,
Hmm.
excuse me, and I would really push it. I mean, I was an adrenaline junkie like crazy. My mom never thought I was going to live to be 18. Um, and the reason is because I was always trying to cheat death so that I guess in my mind, I thought that whenever I faced it, it would be easier. Because the more you do something, potentially, the easier it's going to be when it actually happens, right? And it
Yeah.
was retarded, actually. And and I use that word not in a derogatory way. I use it in the fact that it's actually stinking thinking and not actually the impairment. Because I've been down
I
that
gotcha.
road. And
Yeah.
the deal with that is like I said, I had my crazy, crazy time. And when I met her, I was still that way for quite a while. And it was really difficult until I actually started having those experiences, right? And then in doing so, I had a talk with God. Guys, that basically, when he told me to marry my wife, I was in the middle of the Gulf. And he told me that it was time to do right by her and the kids and not, get my life together. And I was like, okay. So fine. When? He's like, as soon as you get back. And so I call her. I'm sitting on a bucket in Louisiana. And I call her up first thing in the morning whenever I get into shore and off the Chapelai River and stuff. And I'm sitting there at this bucket talking to her on a payphone. And I tell her, I say, hey, God told me it was time for us to get married. And she'd already started Bible college. And in doing so, you can't. You got to go through this protocol and stuff because you're being a pastor, you're doing that ministry. And so you can't do that. And I'm like, I don't care, lady. God told me, He told me this is when we're going to do it. And I'm coming home in a week. And so this is how it's going to go down. And she's like, yeah, sure. It ain't going to happen. I'm like, okay, whatever. Just ask, go to the family of Dean and ask if you can do it and so on and so forth. And she's like, he's not gonna because my sister had already gone through the same thing. She said they had to do it, and I'm like, I don't care. God told me. I want you to understand it. And the deal is He was showing her and her father that God speaks to me just as much as He does anybody else. And all these obstacles that were in our way, because there was about 5 or 6 of them that were a
Mhm.
definite no, and I mean no, no, it wasn't gonna happen. But every one of these obstacles that we came to, just like she would go to the dean and told her story. He's coming in, he's captains, he's offshore, and we need to get married whenever he comes in. He's like, okay, great. And she almost fell out of the chair. And it was like, then the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. And it happened in a week. And her father was in there too, that he was going to be the one to do it. And he didn't even know yet. And he still didn't even really like me. And it was just like all these things were like were saying no, but it was yes. And
Mhm.
after we went through these things, and basically, and I went into Bible college there too. After some time, I went, and God told me, He was like, "Son, this is stupid." I mean, He said it like that. It was like you can jump out of a plane at 40,000 feet and not have a parachute. And if you're not supposed to die because it's not your time, you're not going to. But you are going to live with the consequences of that until that day you do. So you may be a quadriplegic until then, but you're
Mm,
not going to die. So stop it.
mhm,
And so I was
mhm.
like, that makes a lot of sense. And I was like, okay, well, I stopped being so crazy, doing so these crazy things. He's like, the transition, it ain't gonna change. It is what it is, son. And so basically, like I said, I had these experiences and I wanted to go into Bible college and get my degree just like her, finish and start going down that ministry road. And after she graduated, God's like, okay, it's time for you to go back offshore and go back captaining ships. And I'm like, no.
Oh,
And he's like, no. And I'm like, I ain't doing it. He's three times. He's like, I said, you're going back offshore. And it didn't change from the first time to the second time to the third time, but the authority behind it did. And it was like after the third time, I was like, okay, fine. And because I wanted to finish, I wanted to complete that. I wanted to go out there and minister the gospel and do all those things. And God didn't want that from me. And I didn't understand it at the time. And so I went back offshore, started captaining ships again. I mean, I'm gone 3, 4 months at a time, come home for a month, go do it again. Right. And I was done with it, but I wasn't done with it. And this whole time I was out there after, going back to work, it was like, didn't say word one why he wouldn't let me finish. He would talk to me about everything else, but as soon as I wanted to know about why am I out here, nothing. So about a year, a little over a year later, I was out there. It was about the same time of night. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and just hundreds of miles offshore, just sitting in the calm and in total darkness because out there it's so the stars and everything. It's
oh,
incredible. And so it's
right.
like sitting there at that time. He's like, "Okay, son, this is why you're back out here." And he wanted to teach me from him and not be educated of man because man's education is full of the ego and it is completely off track. And he wanted to be the one that taught me and educated me because when I was in Bible college, I had all the hardest classes. I wanted to be the best of everything, same ego driven. I'm going to be the best at whatever I do kind of mentality.
Mhm,
And he didn't want that. He wanted me to follow and be taught by him and by his spirit. And it was like, son, you have all of the head knowledge, but you have no experience whatsoever. And until you get the experience of walking these things out with me,
mhm,
it's only theory. After that, it becomes wisdom. And now you can own it because what I do for you, I do for everyone. And now you can
mhm,
talk as that you own it. And it was like, okay, now I get it. But it would have been nice
mhm.
to know this in the beginning. He's like, no, you wouldn't have done it. And
Yeah, that's
I,
so
I,
true.
I understand. And so my life has been this crazy town of forming me into what his image of what I want and what he wants me to be. And it's been very difficult because I'm a challenged child and I always want to do things my way. And every time God would tell me to do something, and this is in the beginning, first few years, he would tell me to do something and I just do it. And it would cause problems because I wasn't waiting on him to give me more information. Since he'd tell me to do something, I'd be like both feet just jump right in. And it would be that their provisions weren't met, things weren't in place yet, and I would have to go through it, and it would be difficult. And he was like, "Son, I need you to slow down and wait on me." And so I had this anchor on my um, uh, ankle, and it reminds me of captain, but it also keeps me grounded, so that when God tells me to do something now, I always remember that it's easier to drag my feet in it than it is to
Mhm.
take off running, because I can always keep my eyes on him when he's in front of me. But whenever I get out in front of him, then it causes me to get outside of his protection. And so my wife has been that anchor to help ground me a lot of times. She basically, God told me, she's your wisdom. And I gave her to you for that very purpose. And, sometimes I have to discern whether it's her telling me something or if it's God telling me something. And that was the same thing I used to have to deal with her father, because he's a prophet. And it was like, okay, who's talking to me now? Is her dad? Is it my father in law? Or is it, my pastor? Or is it God speaking to me through him? And so it
Right.
was really difficult. And especially, I mean, people are people. And so you get angry with people too. And it's like, how do you get angry with a person that's actually speaking to you through God? And it was like,
Mhm.
um, I don't want to hear that, but I got to hear it. And it's like, it was a difficult time. So my journey of bringing me to the place that I am today has been a long road of a lot of difficulties, a lot of experiences, a lot of challenges. Like I said, I really should have been dead many, many times. A lot of things that have happened. And here I am. And it's like, I have a testimony that I could start like we've done just right now, and I could almost nonstop for 2 or 3, 4 hours. Just people have told me to write books and all these other things from the wild adventures of me, because
Yeah.
that's what it's been. It's been an
Yeah.
adventure, and it's now, it's, I don't know, 68 going on 69 years of crazy town in my life. And so this is the only thing that keeps me grounded, because I keep focused
Mhm.
on other people's needs, because I don't know it all as far as what's gonna happen. I know where we're going. I've been
Right.
there many times. But same thing, like when God would talk to me offshore about everything but why I was here. It's the same thing in this experience that we're going through right now. He took me to there, and that was to heal me from what I had been privy to with all of the um, Anthony Weiner laptop and I mean, I've seen everything that was on it. And um, I know why those detectives committed suicide, because it was tormenting to be able to see other individuals taking such pleasure in the torture and the pain and the sexuality of the torture that was done to children. And to you cannot be human and do that to another person. You can't.
Right. No.
And to be a human and to witness it, it
Yeah.
you cannot see it, and you cannot
Right.
walk away from it. Period. I don't care who you think you are. That's why I've told
Right.
people to be careful the rabbit hole
Yeah.
you go down and how far, because you cannot unsee things. And it was killing me. I almost was dead because of those experiences, and because I couldn't sleep. I for It was almost 6 months to a year of an hour sleep here and there, and that wasn't even sleeping, and it was so detrimental to my health that it was killing me. And my wife would tell me, you've got to stop, and I'm like, there's
Yeah.
nothing I can do, and I can't. And it's like, the situation is that if God didn't intervene and take me to heaven, into the throne room, And then from there, going to where we're going to show me this is where you're going. And this is what I have a place for you. And I have a place for all of my children, all of them, not some of them, all of them. And the reason that I say all is because you're eternal, because it's your spirit,
Yeah.
and it cannot be killed. This is a meat suit, this is an experience, but that's not who we are.
Right.
And we have different experiences. We are a multi dimensional being that's experiencing these things simultaneously, all at the same time, in different ways, in different manners. And we have so much emphasis on the here and now, and that this
Yes.
is all that is because they don't know
Right.
anything else, and that they
Mhm.
believe in their faith is, it's not really there. It is, but it
Right.
isn't, because they don't have
Right.
that knowing. When you have that
Yes.
knowing, and this is what Christ was about, and this is why Christ was so important, it was the way shower to us all. It was that he didn't have to be faithful in what he believed. He had a knowing of who he was. And in
Yeah.
that knowing, he just was. It's
Yes, I
the
love that.
difference from doing and being. And you have to be able to be. And that's what I'm trying to do now, is stop doing and start being your authentic self, and to walk in that thing in which I have shown you. And this
Yes.
experience is exactly what it is, because I don't know things day to day. I don't know how things are. Now, I do get things, and I do
Right.
get better understandings of things because of things I have been shown and still be shown, because I still get to go. And um, in doing so, I'm able to put pieces of the puzzle together easier
Mhm.
than if I didn't have that. But it was like, son, the deal is that you signed up for this experience, and I can't, and I won't take that away from you. And so this is my experience of this, remembering and then going, and where it all ties together. And this journey that we're all on right now is the experience. And we're all walking through our own journey, our own part of this experience. And even though collectively we have the same mindset, but the mindset is very physical, it's in the reality of this world. And to be heart sensed means that that's your consciousness, and that's where we're all connected. We're all
Yes.
connected by our hearts. And when we get our hearts in the right place, even if it's wrong in what we do, it's okay, because our heart's in the right place. So that's where it's
Right.
really important for us to start learning how to walk in other people's shoes, and not to take so much personally. And I had a really difficult time being able to how I could explain these experiences that I had. And I learned about basically a book called The Four Agreements. And in those four agreements, it gave me the tools to be able to explain the things of how I operate. And it
Yes.
was like, after getting it, it was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. It's the tool bag that I can show other people to always do your best, and to,
Yes.
not take things personally, and to
Right.
basically don't assume anything. That's number three. And then number four, always do my best. Going back to number one.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what you did today, you can always start over, always try to do your best. And it's like, in doing so, it's like it changes the reality of everything. And I mean,
It
like,
does.
when you don't take things personally, even when it's directed at you personally,
Yes.
it
That's it.
doesn't mean it. And that's the hardest
Right.
thing. It's like, you
It
know,
is.
I know you're going through a bad day. It's you. Unless I did something that I know that I did to deserve what's happening, then it's not me. It's actually you. But
Yeah.
people still take that personally. Like, what did I do? And it's like, you didn't. It's them. That's what they're
Yeah,
going through. They're having a bad day. They're
exactly.
experiencing this. They're doing something about them is what they're basically reflecting onto you. And then when you
Right.
receive it, then now you've taken it on. And now it's
Mhm.
basically now that's affecting you. And so
Yeah.
all of these things, when I say like all of this doesn't matter to me, it doesn't.
Right.
It don't.
Right.
None of it. I don't care what happens. I mean, that's the thing that people can't grasp is that I can see something now that is absolutely horrendous, as in, how could someone actually do that? And it doesn't affect me. And
Mhm.
why? Because it's only that experience. And I'm only here to observe it, not to judge it, and to respond to it in a way that doesn't bring detriment to myself and the people that are around me. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter what it is. And that's where
Mhm.
people can't grasp how to do that. It's like, oh, the war here, people are dying, and then. Yes, so what's different than yesterday?
Mhm.
Okay.
Exactly.
But the deal is that that's temporal, not
Right.
eternal. Your focus is on what
Yes.
you're seeing and living now. This is not where the world is. This is where the
Right.
world is. And when your peace comes from in here and not what
Yes.
goes in here, then it changes what's out there, and
It does.
then your your world starts to line up to what is in here, no matter what. And
Exactly.
it's like what people can't grasp, and this is not everyone, but most, is that when they always ask me about what's going to happen and where, what's it like there and stuff, I don't like to be able to say those things because what I've done is I've actually started giving you my truth and not your
Right.
truth, because we are
Yes.
co-creators, and whatever you create in your reality is what you're living in your reality. Those
That's
things in
right.
which you put your energy into are what you're attracting into your life. You can actually have a freaking war zone going around you, and if your heart and mind and your bubble, none of that affects you. It doesn't.
That's right.
Wrong.
That's right.
And if
That's
you
right.
actually get killed in it, you were meant to. So get over it.
It's so true. You're awesome. Well, so I have to. That is just. Yes, 1,000% exclamation points with everything you just said. So I just have to go back to. It's a world that most people don't know. The fact that you are a captain and out in those times out in the boats and things, and you led that. Is that a whole different world out there? People just don't know much about it.
So not only was it a whole different world, um, the the life that it was is that things that happened out there didn't normally ever, and it doesn't matter how really horrendous it was back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Things that happened out there didn't even make it to shore. People never even knew the things that would go on out there. I mean, you'd have like, major oil fires and all kinds, people dying and just crazy stuff. And then I would talk to my wife. And I'm like, hey, did y'all? And so one of the things I did for the last 5 or 6 years was I actually responded. My ship responded to like the Event Horizon, the one that burned down and went into the Gulf of
Yeah.
Mexico. My ship would have been the first one on scene, looking for survivors, starting a search grid,
Wow.
doing sonar and all kinds of stuff, right? So I would have been one of the first ones that actually showed up, secured the scene, along with the Coast Guard and other ships. And so I would actually be one of the first there. And then I would tell my wife, I would talk to her. I had sat phones, and I'd have my cell phone that actually worked off of all the towers that were out there from the telecoms. Expensive is crazy, but I would use it. And I would call her up and talk to her, and I would be like, hey, did you know that happened? And there was a blowout, and I'm going to be here for like another week, and so on. And she's like, no, there's nothing about it on the news. And it's like, so it was like there was that major disconnect, that things that happened offshore and out there in that world didn't really make it to the population's understanding. The only time it did was when those events actually had some kind of major economic or environmental issue that couldn't be ignored. Like you'd have stuff all over the beaches and people, fish and wildlife and, that kind of damage. And when that happened, then it would be, okay, where's this coming from? But not before,
Right.
right? And it was like, it was such a different world. And, it's hard because even now, people don't realize it, but when you're offshore and when you're out there, basically under international law, a captain is the ultimate command. There is no other higher authority out there. And so basically, even like with the military and with other ships, basically when I'm there, if I'm doing anything, it's my vessel. And you have no other authority whatsoever than I have. And the only way that they actually are able to board is for an inspection, making sure my documentation and things are correct. Outside of that, they've got no legal recourse at all, period. Um, and so, it's funny that people don't really realize that, but you have the ability to marry people. You're, like I said, if someone's doing something illegal, I can actually I can arrest you and lock you up and keep you there until I get back to shore. And
Wow.
it's like you've got pretty ultimate discretion on how things go. And as soon as you get 12 miles offshore, you're in international waters. And in international waters, they don't have the rule of law under like jurisdiction for the United States. It's kind of different in that way. There's a lot of stuff that's been implemented more so today than it was,
Mhm.
20 years ago, 30
Mhm.
years ago. It was
Mhm.
it was, man, 30 years ago, it was like the wild, wild west out there. I
You
mean,
bet it was.
so the Exxon Valdez,
Yeah.
it's the tanker that went aground up off of Alaska and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so before that incident, basically it was crazy town because people
Mhm.
were, you drink alcohol, have ships and it was just nuts. And it was a good thing that intervention came in and kind of changed the mindset out there, because like I said, it was the wild, wild west out there, and just whatever went just went. It was crazy.
That's so interesting, Captain Kyle, because because the journey that you've been on has been, as you said, you just it's just been nonstop and go, 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 and in all these crazy experiences. And I love the fact that you said about your anchor and that, if you're too far ahead, you're not in the protection of God. I love all of that so much. So when you were electrocuted, though, that had to have been so difficult because here you were this guy, this athlete, this person who was always wanting to get things and do it first and be athletic about it and all that stuff. How mentally did you get through that? Was it your competitiveness to get better? I mean, how was that period?
So it's funny that you ask it that way, because yeah, it was. That's why I said I felt like a retard, because I couldn't talk and I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair, and then I went to, it's called the TIER, the Texas Institute of Rehab and Rehabilitation. It was
Mm.
in the Baylor College of Medicine district and stuff, and that facility was one of the two best in the world, and with equipment and everything else that they had, because for about a month they didn't even realize what exactly was wrong with me, um, and because my extremities were intact, but like I said, it was between my brainstem and spinal cord, and they couldn't find it. And there was a specific test that they had to do, that if I'd have known the test before they were going to do it, I would have not known it.
Really?
Oh, absolutely no. Because I had to lay on a bed with all these wires hooked up to my whole body, from my feet all the way up into my head, looked like the $6 million man, right? and they had to shock my extremities and then track it all the way up into my brain to try to figure
Wow.
out. I had to experience this for an hour after being electrocuted. And
Ah,
so I was livid pissed off whenever I got done with the test and got back and see my brain surgeon and brain specialist and all these people. And because I had a team of doctors, right? And actually, my case is in the New England Journal of Medicine.
oh,
Um,
wow.
so that experience, I had a short term memory totally gone. I didn't even know who my wife was. I had my and I had a I was dating at the time because I had just met her for I don't know a couple of months before this actually happened. I was living in Hawaii and I was back here while I was working. I would go back to Hawaii 6 months out of the year, blah, whatever. And um, I was dating too many women at the same time, like a bunch, and I didn't know who they were. And they would come to the hospital and see me. I had no idea who these people were. And I told my dad, I said, "You got to tell me who these people are." And so, because I had my long term memory, but I didn't have the short term memory, right, from a year or two, and it was really difficult. And so, um, when my I had a girlfriend from little after high school, and and she was kind of like me, really, really, really beautiful, and she was really self-involved and so on and so forth. We were really snotty. We would say bad things about people just because it was like, we made fun of people, really smart ass and that kind of stuff. And when she came to see me when I was in the hospital, we weren't dating. Well, we saw each other, we weren't really dating. You get the picture. And
Mhm.
so she comes see me when I was at the hospital and stuff, and that same kind of personality that I was, she was like that because there was a lot of strange things and people you see there at this place, right? People are messed up pretty bad, not
Yeah,
just physically but also mentally, and it disgusted me. It did. And I told her, I was like, because that's who I was. And now that's
yeah.
who I am as well. And it's like I told her, I said, don't ever come back to see me. I don't want to ever see you here again, ever. And it was it was a reflection of who I was, and it disgusted me.
Wow.
And now I'm in this other side and I'm experiencing that same feeling, even though you can't tell it unless I speak, or I still actually have a stutter. But I disguise it whenever I get a word that I can't say. I'll actually pause really long to figure out something else when I can't say a word. And so people don't
Mhm.
know I can do it. And so I would also I was always in my wheelchair getting up, and I would end up getting hurt. And they were telling me, you can't do that, you can't do this, and you can't. I'm like, I ain't staying this way. It ain't happening. And I ended up, after getting out, I was walking. I had a leg brace, one that we wear
Mhm.
from your knee down to your through your foot and in your shoe and all that stuff, where would allow me to be able to walk with a cane and stuff. And so I was getting around okay. And this was after a couple of years. And I started to. This is after I got my master's in captain and stuff like that, and I started captaining big sailboats and stuff, doing it by myself, not with other people.
Wow.
And because
Wow.
I was having to try to get around the boat to do that stuff, and it was working on my mobility, it was working on my balance, it was working on all these things that you would normally actually do, all these muscles that you don't normally have to work about, but
Yeah.
you're having to deal with
Yeah.
now. It was like after like 6 months to almost a year, I didn't need my cane anymore. I didn't need my brace
Wow.
anymore. And it just continued down this road. And I started back into martial arts, and then I started doing, training a lot. And everything just completely changed, like I said, through this period because it was like, Even when I was in the wheelchair, even when I was trying to learn how to talk again, I had the mentality that even though I was told I can't and I won't,
Mhm.
it was like,
Right.
no, I am and I will because I am not staying this way, period. And that was my
Yeah.
mentality. And I didn't care how many times I fell, I didn't care how many times I got hurt. And I mean, one of the first times I fell out in public was really very difficult. I was with my son. He was like 3 years old, and we were walking along, and we were in. It was Christmas time, and you know how like the stores where they put all these freaking big old things out in the middle of the walkways and stuff. You know, you got to go around them. It's like all their little
Mhm.
displays and shit. Well, I ended up tripping over one of those, took the whole thing down. Here I am out in the middle of the floor with my 3 year old son, and I having a difficult time trying to just get back up. And how embarrassing that was to be with my son. And here I am taking this whole freaking display down because here I am, dumbass, can't walk, can't talk, can't do these things. And that was the things that I was having to deal with to continually be on this path of who I am today. And so I have
Yeah.
all these personal experiences of the no's and the can'ts and the
Yeah.
won'ts and all that. So
Yeah.
when people tell me that stuff, even about their self, I'm like, bullshit. I got
Yeah.
bullshit. I smell it. It stinks. And so that's just my mentality. And you can have the same mentality, but you have to own it. And there is going to
Yeah.
be so many things that as you begin to own it, that are going to challenge it and try to take it away from you. So if you don't actually have it, you don't have it. You can say it all day long, but until you actually own it, you can't be
Yeah.
it. And that is
Yeah.
nothing.
Right. It's so amazing. I mean, you kind of were that guy your whole life, it sounds like, but you're channeling it into the other side, as you would say, as you called it. I mean, and so it's just so interesting when I start to hear lives of folks like you who are such warriors. And so when then did you start to question other things that were happening in this world? Was there a specific event? Was it just a growing uh, understanding that we don't know really what's happening and we're being lied to about things? When did that start happening with you?
So, like I said, my whole life, I always looked to the stars, looked out into space, even as a kid, just wondering. I always had that why mentality. I'd always ask questions why because I wanted to know why about everything. And that was a lot of reason why I got my ass whipped when I was with my dad because he would tell me to do something as a kid, and then I would say why.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know why. I wasn't challenging him. I just wanted to know why. And then he'd say because you should know this because I said so. And it's like, oh, hell no, I'm going to do it just because you said that. That was my mentality. And so I would get an ass whipping for it. And I earned it and I deserved it. And it was okay because I wasn't going to go down that path. And so when I had my kids, my thing is that I was never going to be that way. And I was never going to not give them the understanding of learning consequences and why things are the way that they are. And so that was the way that my mentality was about everything. And really, whenever I started to get the fact that things weren't as that we began to perceive them to be, was around the mid 2000s or so, about 2006, 2007, somewhere in that ballpark.
Mhm.
Because I actually had found out at that point that the Bushes were not who I thought they were, not who I had been supporting and giving a lot of money to, and I mean a lot, and that they were freaking Nazis from Germany. And
Oh.
I mean, it just devastated me that here I am, you know, very patriotic and very, that kind of mindset, and
Mhm.
then finding out that we've all been lied to in that things are not as they appear, and that here I am been given all this money to a freaking Nazi. And
Yeah.
what? I mean, I had both the father started it, the CIA, and the son, and they, nobody talked to. Sorry, because nobody else knows about any of this stuff. You start talking about it too much, too loud, and then you become Clinton. And so it was very difficult back in those days. It was really, really difficult. The more you find out about stuff, the more you learn. And then, my son, he's off military intelligence. He's special forces. He got pulled into special forces after being in military intelligence. As now he can operate as a military intelligence person, operating with the teams. So when they're actually out doing stuff, because things changed, to what I can say, changed really quickly, and he would be able to have the clearance to discern and to be able to say, this is how things are going to change. And so not only was he part of the team, he was actually, when they would go off mission, come back to the base, he would go to the TOC, the Tactical Command Center, and basically start working on their next mission set. And so he did both of these things. And so he's over in Afghanistan, and I'm creating all kinds of freaking trouble for the military, because we're talking about Obama's military at the time, and they were starting Jade Helm. And Jade Helm became a serious situation because they were preparing for the military to basically take over the South and take over the people. And they were doing these exercises with special forces and other groups on seeing how their urban warfare would be in specific locations like Texas and New Mexico, Arizona, California, how they were going to perceive threats, who would be more of a threat, not a threat, and all this stuff.
Wow.
And so um, there was huge red flags about the whole thing, because military didn't do these kind of exercises out in the public space. That's
Mhm.
just, you don't do military exercises that are really exercises in the public arena. You don't do it. And they were doing it. And
Wow.
um, so my son calls me from Afghanistan and tells me, he said, Dad, what the fuck are you doing? You're causing all kinds of problems for me and stuff. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, but this is your fight. This is my fight. And this is the way it is. And so basically, if President Trump would not have actually won that first presidency, because he
Mhm.
won three, but if he didn't win that first one, I was already on a list to be actually gone. And I knew I was on it.
Wow.
And basically, the situation, I've had different hits on me since he was in office. And but the only reason I'm here is God, and
Mhm.
that I have had that kind of protection as well. And
Mhm.
I've still had it. I've had my brakes professionally cut on my truck. I've been poisoned. I've had all kinds of stuff. And even when I was poisoned this last time, they have no idea how I got it, because I didn't eat any.
Wow.
And I was
Wow.
so I almost died from it. I was in the hospital. Man, when I got into the emergency room, it took 6 bags of IV before I actually started to recover, just from being a in critical condition. And it was like, it blew their minds. And they're like, they don't even know how it happened. And like I said, and now I have known other people that have been poisoned like this. And they don't have answers either. But the deal is that when someone else, and I'm talking about another, people that are in the public space, that this has happened to, a lot of people have died from it. and the ones that didn't, they don't know how they did that happened to them either. I'm like, oh well, that's exactly like mine. So, um,
That's nuts.
yeah, it's just that once you start going down this path, then it's you can't unsee things, and you can't ever
Right.
change how you feel about things. And like I said, it started in the mid seven, 2006, seven, somewhere around there. So it's been, seven, eight, 18 years now, something, I don't know. Um, 20
So
years.
what platform when did you start to become, wanting to get that information out to the public?
So I guess it started with, you know, Facebook and Twitter. And when all the people, I had a massive amount of people that followed me on Facebook. And
Yeah.
the bad thing about Facebook is when I lost my Facebook account, my first one, I mean, I had probably 100, just under 100,000 people follow me. And that was a lot for Facebook. And my
Mhm.
wife would always bitch and complain because she was like, all these crazy people know us and no, 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 no. Because it was my personal stuff. And that's how it ended up happening. I didn't, choose for it to go
Yeah.
down that way. And the, whenever Facebook killed my first um, account, all of my photos and all the stuff that I had there that I didn't have anywhere else, I lost all that. And so
Ah,
um, it's it was crazy. And like I said, that
yeah.
then when all the people got purged on,
Mhm.
Twitter and everything else, that's kind of the same time that I got nixed from everything as well. And when uh, Kelly and I got together, you know, I told her a lot about my past and how many people and people that I knew in the movement and all through this stuff, right? And she was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then whenever she started experiencing me having relationships with certain people, um, and I told her, I said, it's normal. It's like whenever you start having conversations with these people that you've been seeing in all these platforms and all that you have this, they're some big name or something, then you start
Mhm.
to be able to talk to them and have them on your phone where you can just call them as well. Um, it's going to change your perspective on everything, and it changes your
Mhm.
mind on the way that you view everything. And
Yeah.
it has. And she's like, that same thing has happened whenever, you know, um, she now has people's contact and information to people that are all over the world. And she never had any idea that her life was going to change the way that it did. And I
Mhm.
told her in the very beginning, I'm like, are you sure you know what you're doing here? Because I don't think you do. And you can ask her. She didn't know what she was getting herself into. Now
Yeah.
she's all on board, but she had no idea that what she was really
Right.
getting herself into. I did
Yeah.
because I already knew, but she had no idea. And I've drug her out into the public on purpose because I saw the God that was in her and what God's plan was for her. And in doing so, it's really given her the opportunity to be what God's called her to be.
Yes. In so many ways, and she's been so lovely with me, and then she can share her passions of gardening and things like that as well, and just be there to support you. She's lovely. It's in so many ways. And so I have one last thing I wanna ask your thoughts on something. One thing that I've discovered doing these interviews is that though everybody is so different, right, and has different, roller coaster rides in their stories, everybody has had an experience, whether it's been steady or it's been a flick of the switch of an increased spirituality and their connection with God. Yours is different, and it's because it's so layered and so deep. Um, do you see that this is where, this spiritual war is going? And do you see humanity as a whole rising up in different times in different ways? Um, and do you see also people in this movement that that's the common thread with a lot of us?
Yes. And so actually, I did have that same thing. And so I had it's basically it's a near death experience. And until you have that near death experience or you've had the dark night of the soul experience,
Mhm.
um, that's whenever your reality changes. And I mean, completely changes. And it did for me as well. And mine was kind of a combination of both because I didn't actually die, but I was on death's bed and I did have that dark night of the soul experience and was going through that for some time. And in that lowest place is when that transformation actually happens. And even though I've
Wow.
been experiencing, spiritual things and God and all those things for years
Right.
before, that was the time that my acceleration took off and my experiences changed, my reality changed quite a bit. And not only did that happen, but also my post traumatic stress that I was dealing with from what I had been witness to, gone. Just like that. No, never come back, never bother me again. So I could actually, right this minute, could go and I could watch the same things that destroyed me before, and it would have no effect on me at all. I mean, absolutely none. I mean, yeah, it would be not, I wouldn't want to watch it, but it wouldn't
Right.
bother me ever again.
It
I
wouldn't
wouldn't think
penetrate.
about it. I wouldn't think about it later. It wouldn't play in my head over and over again. And that's what happens is you start playing these things back and forth in your mind and it never turns off. And you can't shut it down. Well, it doesn't happen to me anymore. And it's not because I don't care. It's because that has been disconnected from my reality in a functioning way that it's not supposed to be able to control me. Those things
Yeah.
in which can control and trigger you are the things in which you need to get over because
Yeah.
you have the ability, we all do, to actually overcome and rise above absolutely everything. But we just don't know how. And we
Mhm.
put the emphasis too much on not having the authority and the power to do it because
Right.
we've been neutered because of the
That's right.
church. I mean, really, everybody's been neutered. And because of that, it's like even when I hear people pray, bugs the crap out of me. Because most of the time, people, if it's God's will, then He'll heal you. That kind of shit just pisses me off because His will is for you to not ever be sick, not to be poor, not to be any of these things.
Right. You're
Absolutely
right.
none of them. So for you
Yeah.
to ask for that to actually happen, then you should be reminding them that these are the promises, and then I'm actually reminding not only myself but the universe and all that is involved with that these are the promises. These are who I am. This is what I say. This is what I believe. And these are my expectations. Line up with it. And you don't have a
Mhm.
choice. You don't have a choice. And it's the doubt and the disbelief and the what ifs, all of those things will make it to where it never happens, ever. When you pray, when people pray over and over and over for the same thing, why? Why are you praying over and over again? Now, because if you're praying over and over again for the same thing, you didn't believe it the first time. So why is it going to happen the second, the fifth, the 10th, the 20th? And people say, and this is how the word that says that, to ask, keep on asking, knock, keep on knocking. And that's the bugging mentality that, if you keep banging on the door, finally somebody's going to answer it because they're just sick and tired of you banging on the door and they'll deal with you. Well, that has absolutely nothing to do with faith. That has to do with works. And that's not specifically what it's talking about. It's
Right.
talking about, you know, moving forward and to never giving up on things. And, but in creating and in creation, it's done, already done, or it's not. And it never will be. And it has to do with the mindset of how it operates and how you operate,
Yes,
period.
indeed.
We are the detriment of all those things in which we hope for because we cut ourselves off from them. And we don't even realize that we're the one doing it. It's not the world, it's not all
No,
these things. We're doing it ourselves. And
right.
it's the doubt and it's the unbelief. It's when you can't put together the things that are in the desires, those desires that are in your heart. We're going back to the heart. God put them there. Why did he put them there? Because that's what his desire for you was. That's what your desire was. And that's why they're there. And so then the disconnect becomes from the heart to the head. How am I going to get it? And
Hmm.
you don't get it. It already is. You just have to learn how to walk into it. And that's what we don't know how to do. And if you just stay the fuck out of the way,
Yeah,
then you can manifest all kinds of things if you quit worrying. Worry
that's
doesn't solve anything, but it screws up everything. And it's
it.
like when we get involved, this is the deal. When we get involved, usually we have a tendency of screwing it up. And that's where it's like if we give up control and allow things to happen as they're supposed to be. And then we learn how to walk into it with
Hmm.
gratitude, with thanksgiving, and just having that heart and mindset, everything changes. But it's a
Everything.
matter of giving up control and giving up that I got to have everything the way that it's supposed to be in here and not in here.
Yes, exactly. And everything you're saying, and I have to tell you this, what you're saying is spot on, and you've always said that. And, we've been purposefully told we're the victim and we don't have control, but because when we do find that connection that you're talking about, we're pretty powerful and there's no stopping us, which is scary for the powers that were, right? You know,
Absolutely.
and so that's the whole point. But I have to tell you this, Captain Kyle, um, as we finish this up, the things that you've said over the years, I have to tell you, they do plant seeds, and you have planted thousands and thousands of seeds. And I do want to say thank you for that because I'm super optimistic because I really do feel like I understand what's coming, you know? Um, and it's been people like you that have helped plant that seed with me as I continue to learn these things. And so your strength and your warriorism and everything and your conviction of what you tell people definitely has rubbed off and planted seeds all over the place, all over the world, I think. And so thank you. And I feel so lucky that I got to sit here and talk to you for a while. And you're just gonna continue just to spread so much wonderful seeds to people in this time that's I think is gonna get bumpy for a while. Um, and you just
It
have been
is.
such a wonderful part of this whole movement. So thank you.
It is. But, that doesn't define us. And those things have to happen because you got to break some eggs to get
Yes.
you gotta scramble them up and to make something else. And it does actually have to happen.
Yes.
And things have to be broken so that they can be fixed. Things have to
Yes.
be torn down so they can be rebuilt. And
Right.
so it's just a part of the way things have to go.
Right.
And the most important thing I believe for anybody that's listened to this later is listen to a person over a long period of time and see if they're true to the same story. Because whenever people's narrative changes back and forth and to and fro, you should, no matter what they're saying or how good it sounds,
Right.
you should throw caution to that. Because you
Yes.
shouldn't tell people what they want to hear. You should tell people what they need to hear. And there's a lot of backlash from that. But you have to have a heart to tell people no matter what and not care what they think. Because when you care what people think about you, then that's going to change the way that you speak to them. And I don't mean in a negative way. You can speak to people
Right.
in love and sweet and kind and all this, or you can be direct, doesn't matter. But you have to be able to hit them between the eyes, tell them what they need to hear. It may piss them off, but that doesn't matter. It's like I tell my wife all the time, I don't care whether you believe the things in which I say or not, because I'm not looking for your approval, plain and simple. And because of that, I don't change back and forth to
Right.
what I say
Right.
things exactly which are my truths. And
Yep.
if they're my truths, I'm going to tell them in a way that they can be explored and then they can become something that is your truth, not mine, but yours. Because you have to own it. You have to be able to speak that same way. When you own something, you'll plant your flag and go, "This is what I believe, no matter what."
Mhm.
I could be wrong, and in that, I will change if I'm wrong because I'm not
Right.
so closed minded that I can't listen to something else. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean I'm going to
Yes.
change what I believe. I'll only change that whenever something is discernible and real, because that will change my heart, which then will cause my head to line up.
Yes, absolutely. Amen, Captain Kyle. This has been so awesome. You are just so wonderful and thank you for spending the time with me. Thank you for continuing to do what you do and I enjoy all of the shows that you have and what you're saying and even when it's just you and your truck. I love that too. So just keep doing it and give Kelly my best and I know our audience is just going to treasure this as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Bye.
Bye bye.